Hi, everybody. I love that voice. Recording in progress. Welcome to Conversation with Calvin, We the Species. Hey, there are interviews and there are interviews, and this is an interview because besides the fact that I'm with Peter Kofitsas, and I got it right, which is
You
important.
did. Very good.
We are brothers in Rutgers, and we discovered that. And that, of course, I'm wearing that not because you're here, Peter, but because this has been on my head for 15 years. I do wash it from time to time, but not often. Nobody knows. I'm sitting here by myself. Who's going to know whether I wash it or not? But it's my thing, and we found each other. I don't even remember how. Somehow, in the magic of the internet and connectivity, and boom, 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 and we start discovering. We do a Zoom to get acquainted. Your background is beyond. And it's so beyond that we're going to do whatever we have to do now. And Peter's going to come back because there's a lot more to talk about. And I'm just briefly the motivational leadership and the wellness and the life coach and the author and the nutritionist, all this stuff. And listen, I thrive on nutrition. I don't know if we talked about that. I thrive
Yeah.
on nutrition. I could talk for a long time about nutrition. Better, you're better at it. I do my own nutrition my own way. But nutrition, hey, and why Peter's here is we're going to talk about stuff, but everything he says, it really works. I know it works for me in my own little microcosmic world because this thing up here is going to be 80 years old in a couple months, and it's functioning better now, approaching 80 than it ever did before. So there's got to be reasons for that, and one of them you could talk about it later, nutrition. So, I mean, this is great. I'm so grateful you're here. And people should know that's not an artificial backdrop. That's real back there.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Um, anyway, Peter, why don't you do a little bit of an intro, and then we're going to jump into some of these things. We'll never finish it today, but some of these things that you're all about.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Thanks, Cal. I'm happy to be here and I appreciate this. And I do love talking about how to have a great life. Some of the titles are leadership and motivation and nutrition and exercise, and those are important things. I just love using those, whatever we can do to get motivated, to eat better, to move our bodies and exercise. If we could tie it into something meaningful for us, like a lot of people eat healthy because they need to or want to lose weight. And that's important, but that's not motivating, as you know. So I love sharing the knowledge that I've gained over 30 years, my own journey, helping people eat a certain way, move their bodies a certain way, direct their thoughts a certain way, control anxiety, so that they could have what they want in their lives. It's an end, or it's a means to an end. The eating healthy is not by itself. It's just a tool. It's a resource that you, as you know, Cal, if you tap into some of these powerful tools, you'll live longer, you'll live happier, you'll have less stress, you'll have better relationships, you'll sleep better at night, you'll wake up more energized, you'll be more engaged in your work. So I love talking about this, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is great, and it's funny. The more I digest you in your journey, perfectly how perfectly synchronistic this is because it's what I'm all about. It's what I'm learning, what I'm living, what I'm discovering. I'm like a living laboratory. I mean, because it works. You know what? It works. One other, by the way, to the audience out there, one other significant thing I forgot to include in Peter's background is he played football for Rutgers. And football at Rutgers, in many ways, has transformed my life. Another story for another day. So, um, that it was a big thing for me, football for Rutgers. But anyway, we talked about one of the games at the Meadowlands. But anyway, let's go to work. Uh, the number one thing a person can do to get motivated.
That's a great question. Laser focus on your purpose. Why are you here? This works for me, Cal, and it works for my clients and my audiences seems to resonate with them. laser focus on what your purpose is, whether you believe in God, a higher power, science, whatever you have a belief in. What's that purpose? Who are you serving? What are you doing? I'll give you an example. My purpose, part of it is I grew up in a immigrant Greek family. My parents were immigrants from Greece, third grade education. They did their best. They did some great things for us, and they did some things that challenged my brother, sister, and me that we had to work through. So I love to look at that instead of saying, man, my parents, I wish they were smarter, richer, whatever, and say, okay, that's good that I went through this. It was tough, but now it serves my purpose of telling people, hey, you can overcome adversity. You know that. You can look and feel amazing. I don't even think great. You can look and feel amazing no matter what age you are. And what are you doing with that? So laser focused on if service is your goal, if inventing something is your goal, if being in your community, if being a leader, if being one of those people on the line as part of a team, I think it was Socrates says, if you want to destroy a person's soul, give him a meaningless task, something like that. And I think it was Socrates. And I like to just help people tap into everything that happens to you happens for a reason. If you could reframe it to benefit your focus, your purpose, then every day, all day, whatever happens to you, someone cuts you off, someone's rude to you at the grocery store, you don't close that deal, there's a benefit to us to that. It doesn't feel like it at the time. But if you're laser focused on what your purpose is, then everything benefits the purpose. And I just think it's a powerful and sometimes it's definitely a more motivational way to look at things. Otherwise, you could say, why me? The world, everyone's selfish and out for themselves. And what's the point of it all? And I've been there too, believe me. I'd rather think like everything happens for a reason. How can I use this to benefit me, my family, the people that I serve?
Great answer. Great answer. It's true. Everything you said is spot on true. What are the three areas, and this is interesting, what are the three areas in life that we have complete control over, but sometimes we don't realize it?
Yeah, I love to talk about this because this is something I realized because I tried to control everything growing up the way I did and playing at Rutgers and whatever happened to me. We'll have time on another podcast to talk about that. I realized that there's only three things I could control. Focus, what I'm going to think about, food, what I'm going to eat, and whether I'm going to move my body or not. And I'm a physical therapist, and I work with people that are in wheelchairs. So there's always something we can do physically. So focus. I can work on directing my mind to benefit myself, my family, and my purpose. Food. I can control what I'm going to eat. Hard part is the psychology of food. And fitness. If I tap into the power of fitness, when you're exercising, your body releases neurotransmitters, testosterone, human growth hormone, unbelievable feel-good, powerful chemicals. So every day I'm going to try to focus my thoughts, eat to support those thoughts, and then move my body to build confidence to make those thoughts and dreams and visions come true. And it's worked for me. The worst times in my life, and I've been through many, Cal, probably like you, probably like whoever's watching or listening. Those three things, Cal, have never failed me. I go back to the drawing board, I direct my thoughts, I clean up my eating, and I start training my body. And I always get back on track with those three things.
Interesting. You said a few times, Peter, food. Just a quick anecdotal story. You can file this. I've been an AFib patient for 15 years. I've had AFib and I've had my journeys with AFib. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has AFib. He's on TV. It hasn't been a great journey. It's been a really nuisance journey. The blood thinners and the cardiac ablations and the hospital, I've done it all. I've done it all. And I spent 5 days in the hospital in November. They did everything they could to me because, you get older and you start running out of things, of medicine, antiarrhythmics. And so they put me on the strongest thing there is. They had to watch me. They paddled me twice with electricity. You know, it's like some movie. You know, Jack Nicholson, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and they're paddling me, and nothing. I'm an
Yeah.
AFib. I can't get out of it. Can't get out of it. I go to see them. They're great. Well, Rutgers guys, Rutgers doctors. And Calvin, your body wants to be an AFib. Just work around it. Boom, boom. So then I put myself on my own with whatever resources I have up here on my own diet. I lost even more weight I'm almost down to, college weight, when I was at Rutgers, and eating and the whole picture and taking a lot of fiber and do my own thing. And 2 weeks into February, I bounced out of AFib and I'm out of AFib.
Wow.
And I saw my cardiologist today. He said, Calvin, no explanation, but it could be weight, food, weight. Wow. Wow. So just to underline or highlight in yellow what you said, food, food, food. We don't know and we'll never know, but you got to pick something. If I'm losing weight and I'm down to my, fighting weight, maybe that did something to the body. I don't know. All right, moving on. I had to tell you that because it's so resonating with me because I saw my cardiologist today. Um, why in your world, why isn't anybody else blending? And that's a good word, blending professional leadership with personal wellness. It's an interesting combination. Uh, I don't know if you just froze. I think you did. Um, oh, you're coming back. You're coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
you
don't know
had
what
frozen.
happened.
You had froze. So you're back, but you got to turn yourself around. You're sideways.
Let's see if we could fix this.
Yes. The nice thing about this is it's all unedited, there you are. You're back. You're now you're perfect. Just bring it down a little bit. I feel like Marty Scorsese here. All right, now you're perfect. Anyway, so that was the question. You do two things. You blend professional leadership with personal wellness. It's not done a lot. Why is that?
Yes. And it's a head scratcher to me, Cal, because I've built a couple of businesses. I've owned and been partners in physical therapy practice, multidisciplinary. I've had my own speaking and consulting firm for 20 something years. And I use the resources, like I said before, of food and fitness. Like every time I exercise, Cal, I think about my kids. I'm doing a Spartan race this coming Saturday. I think about that. I think about outreach to potential clients. I think about attracting clients into my life so that I could speak to their companies, their school districts. I mean, these are such powerful resources. And then I eat. 80% of the time, I eat great, and 20% you can do anything you want. That's what I love about that. You don't have to be perfect. So then I direct my mind to my personal life, my children, my relationships, very important to me, and also my career, because that's my laser focus, right? The first thing is focus. So I am always thinking, who can I serve? How can I better serve them? And I eat a certain way to have energy, to sleep better. When I train my body, I train it for power and confidence. And I tap into all those powerful drugs I mentioned. You're even killer T cells. When you and I are exercising, Cal, our body is producing and releasing cancer killing T cells. Like that to me, I don't know. It's just incredible. I'm literally thinking about that when I'm exercising. My body is killing, literally eating cancer right now. So I'm directing my mind and my body. It's got all this energy from the food. It's got the power and confidence from the exercise. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get on that call with that potential client and I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be authentic. I really believe I bring value to them. So it's, I don't know, it's just common sense to me to blend what I want to do professionally with health and wellness, those incredibly powerful tools. The only place we get energy from is food, right? People are trying to get food from, or energy from a bottle for 5 hours. You know what I'm talking about. Supplements. I'm not against supplements, but they're not eating whole foods to begin with. They're not, no matter what supplement you take, you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to have more energy. It might be a temporary fix. And I'm not judging anyone. I know we're all trying to get something better, and we're busy, and maybe we don't have the budget or the time. But if you just go to the direct source of food, the exercise, the focus, tie it into what you want to do or are doing professionally, it's that's where sustainability comes, Cal. That's where motivation, that's where intrinsic motivation comes. So I don't have to, psych myself up to get on this phone call. I'm living this every day, to get on that phone call, to be confident, to be on this podcast with you, and to talk authentically. This is what I do every day. It works for me. I love sharing it. Just tie it into my professional with my wellness life, and then my relationships. That's, I think, corporate's been looking for balance, balance, balance for years. Work-life balance, work-life balance. I think that's work-life balance. I'll give you a quick story. We just had Greek Easter recently, and my brother and I cooked for 3 days. I'm not bragging. I'm 55 years old. I had unlimited energy because I ate a certain way, I exercised a certain way, I directed my thoughts. I feel good, and it's not because I have perfect genetics. When I played at Rutgers, I was 60 pounds heavier. I can't say that I was completely healthy. So I understand what it's like to be overweight and not to feel good and not to look good, even though I was a football player. But these things work for me in my life. That's why I'm so excited about sharing it. I know there's so many people out there struggling, Cal, right? Trying to get healthier, or trying to figure out their careers, move up the corporate ladder, or not get burnt out if they're a teacher. They're desperate to find some resources. And I think those are the resources, the ones we're talking about today.
And it's so easy and it works. The energy stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, I banged out 40 interviews, 40 hours of interviewing in 10 days. I just sat here for 10 hours a day doing this stuff.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was Garden State Filter, but it was an enormous amount of energy, and I attribute it to what you're talking about. The exercise. As tired as I am, I do my exercise because my body wants that. I love that endorphin. And maybe AI can help us
Yeah. Yeah.
bottle endorphins just to, take it. I'm teasing.
Yeah. I know.
No, I'm
I
teasing.
know.
But
But
what
you're
you're
right.
saying is so
The
true.
thing about Cal, people think if I'm already so tired. If I exercise, I'm going to be more tired. If you're tired and you exercise, you actually have more energy. Your body's
Correct.
going to release all these powerful chemicals. You're going to feel better. You're going to sleep better. You're going to wake up more energized. It's the opposite
It's
of what you would
wonderful.
think.
It's absolutely wonderful. And, I've been on this regimen for a lot of years. A lot of years. It's funny. I saw one of my team of doctors last week. He said to me, Calvin, uh, you're a walking miracle. So what do you mean? He says you shouldn't be walking, you know, but you're a walking miracle, which means you've done a lot of the right things all these years that you're functioning at the level that you're functioning. So it's just what you're saying, Peter.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
this is a tired and old and worn question, but it never can, I guess, get addressed enough. Uh, how does stress and anxiety, affect performance and health? I mean, it's tied
I'm
in, but we can't hear it
Yeah,
enough.
100%. I'm laughing because as you're asking me about stress, there's a bee literally in my ear. So, I mean, talk about overcoming stress, right? So, here's what I've observed in the last 4 or 5 years. There's something called the fight and flight response. Remember biology class, fight or flight. So, you're in danger. You're either going to fight or you're going to run away from the danger, or now there's freeze because we're not cavemen. We're not cave people. We're driving down the street and we're getting into this fight or flight because someone cut us off. We're going to be late because there's traffic. We just saw a text pop up from someone that causes us stress, or an email came in, and oh my God, it reminds me of something I have to do, a bill I have to pay. So you're in full fight or flight mode. You're driving down the highway. You can't fight. You can't run. You're going to freeze. Unfortunately, the more that happens internally, it creates inflammation. The body releases adrenaline, it releases cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It shuts down the thinking part of the brain. You literally cannot think yourself out of anxiety. You can't tell yourself, I'm going to be fine. This is when ruminating happens, where you're perseverating. You're just thinking about the worst case scenario. There's dread. There's something wrong. You're looking over your shoulder. You cannot talk yourself out of it because your logical frontal lobe has shut down because of the cortisol. You're in full survival mode, but you're not in danger. You're just stressed. It's all in our minds. And I know it feels real, but the good news is it's not real. Most of the time, our lives are not in danger. It's just in our minds. So I've been focusing on anxiety. There's something called the vagus nerve exercise. Anyone that's watching or listening, send me an email, contact me somehow. I will show you. It's a 60-second exercise that my psychotherapist showed me. It's based on I think it's Stanley Rosenberg, and a couple of other professionals on the vagus nerve, the polyvagal nerve theory. It literally gets your brain back online, takes 60 seconds to do it. And now all of a sudden you're logical again. You see the solution. You see there's hope again. You see possibilities. And now that's when your motivation comes back, because you can't be motivated when you're in fight or flight mode, because your body and mind thinks, I have to survive. I can't think about anything else. I have to survive. So this gets your body back online. So what I've observed with my children, myself, my clients, my audiences, if someone is in fight or flight mode, a lot of times they don't even know it, but elevated heart rate, shortness of breath, a feeling of panic, dread, irrational thoughts, you cannot control them. You can't stop them. You can't get out of that. So how can you be your best at work? How can you be present for your children who need you? And children, they need us, and we've got to be present for them. How can you, as an artist, be creative? Your brain is literally not online. You're not tapped into your best self. And then you're exhausted because it's fatiguing. You don't sleep well. The cycle repeats itself. It's the opposite cycle of focus, food, and fitness. This is stress, anxiety, worry, not sleeping. And that just compounds itself, creates inflammation. If this happens over time, we know inflammation causes cancer, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. I mean, all of those diseases come from anxiety. So I tell my audiences, my family, my clients, control your anxiety, and you can. Vagus nerve exercise is one of the ways. Then you could eat healthy. Then you can get yourself to exercise. Then you can get motivated at work. Then you can tap into that best part of yourself and do your best work. So if you can't do that right now, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't come to the conclusion that you're not smart enough or rich enough or anything enough. You might just be in fight or flight mode. If you get yourself out, you'll tap into that best self again.
Just to go off topic for a second, I always do this because I try to model myself after Barbara Walters. She was a hero of mine. So here goes. It's a quick off-topic question. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. Could be 1, 2, 3, whatever. There's no rules here.
Someone living or dead?
Living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. No family or friends.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
For some reason, my father comes to mind, and he wouldn't, if you knew me, he would not be the first person that my family would think I'd want to spend a day with, but I would. He was a troubled man. He was an addicted man. He had a lot of demons. He was abusive. He ended up taking his life.
Jeez.
My brother, sister, and I my brother and sister are awesome people. My mom too, remarkable. Raised 3 kids by herself in a foreign country, not speaking the language. But I would spend the day with him to kind of tell him, I'm sorry for what you're going through. You really must be suffering to do something like that, to hurt us the way you did, to hurt mom the way you did. Like, I know there's good in you and we forgive you. I forgive you. And maybe you could teach me. He was extremely talented with his hands. He could build anything. He was very bright, but that got masked with his addictions and his abusive tendencies and all that other unfortunate stuff that I never got to tap into that part of him.
Okay.
So I guess it would be my dad. You surprised me with that question, Cal.
Yep. Well, full of surprises. Okay, moving along. How did you start speaking to companies like Goldman Sachs and school districts about leadership and wellness? I mean, that just doesn't happen.
That's a great question. I'll give you the quick story. I was working as a physical therapist. So I have a nutrition degree and then I got my master's of science in physical therapy. This is after I left Rutgers. And I was working in a physical therapy office with a chiropractor. A woman from UPS came in and said, can someone do a back pain seminar? And my boss pointed at me and he said, Peter will do it. Cal, I never did a public speaking before that. This was 20 something years ago. I failed my first 3 public speaking classes. People don't believe me when I tell them. You could look at my Rutgers transcripts. 2 of those failures were at Rutgers, and I had to take it at William Patterson University in the summer to finally pass so I can get my degree. So anyway, I did the seminar. It was terrible, but there was moments of me connecting to the audience because I had knowledge about how to prevent back pain. And I saw their eyes and we connected and I was hooked. So then I just started studying great speakers. I don't even know if YouTube was around. I don't know how I got these videos, right, Cal? How did we find resources back then? It wasn't at our fingertips like this. I started studying professional speakers and I started weaving in my own experiences, the things that have helped me. And next thing you know, I'm speaking at Goldman Sachs. I'm traveling around the country speaking to the 3rd largest law firm in the world.
Wow.
And now I'm speaking to school districts about helping teachers and staff prevent burnout and balance, professional life with wellness. And I'm very grateful for it.
Huge undertaking to prevent teachers from burnout because my wife was a teacher for 35 years and she was burned out at the end, and the state and the school district didn't make it easier. They made it more difficult. And
I know.
Yep. And
I was married to a teacher for 25 years, Cal. She's the mother of my 3 children, a wonderful woman. I saw what she did for 24 years. She dedicated herself to those kids, would come home feeling guilty. She was tired. She couldn't even help our own kids with homework.
Yeah.
She was too hard on herself, truly.
Yeah.
But the reason I love working with teachers, really anyone, but the reason I love working with teachers is a lot of them, and someone in the school district, they are there probably because they love kids, that they want to help kids. But because there's so much stress and paperwork and bureaucracy and things they have to do for the district and always new learning curriculums, maybe they lose focus of the kids. And it's not their fault. I'm not blaming them. That's what I'm talking about, focus, Cal. If they could refocus back to, I became a teacher to make a difference in a kid's life. Man, if you can get laser focused and stay on that, and then eat to support that, exercise to support that, think to support that, no matter what happens in your day, your principal, your district, parents, we all lose our mind at times. It can't hurt you because you're serving the kid. You're there for the child and you've got to help this kid, because if you don't, maybe no one else will. So that all that other stuff bounces off you. That's the power of focused food and fitness. That's what I've seen.
That's powerful stuff. It's powerful. I mean, it's like everything you're saying, I relate to and I understand, because maybe you have to be 80 years old to really grasp. I don't know, because I grasp at everything you're saying, and
That's why you're here doing this, Cal. You're doing all this stuff,
yeah,
right? It's why you're sitting across from me at 80, almost 80 years old.
yeah, I grasp it and I understand it and I live it as best I can.
Good for you, man.
And I try to impart that. And it's not easy to impart. I
No,
got my son. It's a hard, as Bob Dylan sang, it's a hard rain to get
yeah,
that message. I can only imagine the difficulties you face because people just don't. Uh, it's like I always quote um, the movie Moonstruck
yeah.
when Cher slaps Nicolas Cage in the face. Tell him,
Oh, the
snap
best
out of it.
scene.
Snap out of it. And that's what you got to do. That's what I got to do. We all got to snap out of it. Listen, it
That's the
works.
best scene. I love that.
I love it. I
Yeah,
quote that all the time. And a lot of times I ceremoniously slap myself.
I
Just,
hear you.
yeah, just to
We
kind of,
all need that sometimes. But you know what I do with, especially with my children, because I want them to have these powerful resources. Like my son is 17 and he loves Japanese culture. He wants to go to Japan. Dad, let's go to Japan. Like, all right, buddy, let's put it on the schedule. Let's save our pennies. And I said, what could you do to get to Japan? So we're talking about school and 17, he's a junior. School is not the most important thing to him. I'm like, buddy, you do well. You could really have opportunities, but you do well for yourself. You don't do well for anyone else. Do well for yourself, and somehow that can tap into getting to Japan somehow. You never know. You could work for a company. They have a satellite office. And by the way, when you exercise, you could think about, how am I going to get to Japan? I want to go there. Like literally while your brain is releasing all those powerful chemicals, how can I get to Japan? And then after you work out, you could eat some really good protein, some really good vegetables, replenish your body so it heals. And then you're getting all these powerful neurotransmitters, everything that comes from serotonin, the feel good drug, from good food, from digestion. Serotonin is mostly produced in the gut. Like if people aren't happy, they're probably not producing serotonin. There's nothing wrong with that. That's another topic. So my son wants to go to Japan. What does Japan have to do with exercising, eating healthy, and thinking? Everything. Every time you work out, every time you eat, not every, it doesn't have to be every time, but you know what I mean? You could eat for that. You could train for that. You could think for that. And when you direct your mind towards something consistently, you find solutions. It attracts into your life. All of a sudden, you see an advertisement for airfares for Japan. Social media or artificial intelligence, whatever, always listening to us. You're going to get something pop up on your feed. And then all of a sudden, Japan is in your crosshairs and you're closer and closer and closer. And that seems to resonate with my kids. Instead of me saying to them, Cal, you should really eat healthy so you can be healthy. It's what's the word? It's esoteric. Like no one wants to get cancer or diabetes, but that's just not motivating. So if I eat healthy, I won't get cancer or diabetes. Logically, that makes sense, but that's not intrinsically motivating. What's intrinsically motivating is I'm going to be in Japan. I'm going to look great being in Japan because I've been working out and I have the energy and I'm going to learn the language because my brain is online and I want to learn a new language. That is when I think people transform. You probably do this. There's so many of us who tap into something they want and then realize, oh, if I just eat this way, train this way, think this way, I'll get that. And again, that's why I love it because
yep,
it's a different way to look at health.
yeah, but it works. It works.
It works.
It works.
No.
You alluded to this before. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just a quick interjection question. How did getting then quitting your Rutgers football scholarship, how did it affect
Yeah.
your life? You alluded to this.
Yeah. This is a very long story, Cal, and I'd love to come back on and just focus on this because this
Yeah.
is related to my father.
Okay.
My father taking his life when I was 16 and not dealing with it. But I get this scholarship to Rutgers. It's really a long story, and I find it fascinating because I didn't think about it for 30 years. I really didn't think about it for 30 years because I was ashamed. I quit a full scholarship. We grew up poor. My mother had food stamps. I get a full ride. School is paid for, and then I quit. So I was ashamed. I had no idea this other stuff was following me from, childhood trauma, childhood dysfunction. And that's not to pass the buck, but that stuff really affects us. If you don't have what you want in your life, you could look at the past and say, is something holding me back? Do I have a belief about myself? But anyway, I get to Rutgers. I play. I'm redshirted as a freshman, and I start as a sophomore, which doesn't happen a lot at Rutgers. The reason I know that is I went back and read the press clippings. I really paid no attention to this at the time because I had so much self-doubt, came from my childhood, came from my father. So, and then I quit. I just couldn't handle the pressure anymore. I was so depressed, Cal. I hated how I looked and felt. I was 60 pounds heavier. All of my friends were like, Pete, you have the dream life. You got a football scholarship. Like that's every kid's dream. A lot of kids' dreams, I'll say, to get a scholarship. What do you mean you're quitting? That they couldn't understand it, but I was in such a terrible place. I had to get out of there. And it took me many years to figure it out. Finally, I got a great therapist. I wrote a memoir about it. I interviewed all of my family. And now I talk about that when it's appropriate in my presentations and my life coaching, because a lot of the times when we sabotage yourself, it's from something from the past. It's not our fault and it's not our true self. It's just something that we brought about. So anyway, I quit. It's taken me a long time to understand it. And now I look at it as like, it was supposed to happen. I'm grateful for it. I won't say, Cal, that I wish I can go back and relive some of it and get on that field and be present and be confident and like give it my all, because I don't know that I did that, at least consciously.
Okay. Yeah, you quit football. I quit my profession, pharmacy. Just woke up one morning and this was my entire life was devoted to becoming a pharmacist. And one morning I woke up, looked at my wife. I said, I quit. She thought I was quitting a marriage. I had a habit of doing that. And I said, no, I'm quitting my profession. But anyway,
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, you know what? Some of that stuff's inexplicable, and maybe you get a little bit more as you're getting older. You look back on it, and maybe things fall into place better.
Yeah.
I have a little bit
Yeah.
better.
It all happens for a reason.
It was the whole reason. I mean,
It all
yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's just hard when you're going through it.
sure is. It sure is. That was tough times for a long time. So what is it? I mean, we just dabbled on this too. What effect can childhood have on adult success, health, self-worth? I think
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-doubt. I mean, this is again another topic we can talk for hours and days on.
Yeah.
But self-doubt, I'll talk about myself. I masked with perfectionism, because if I was perfect, then my father and my mother would love me. I didn't know any of this. So perfectionism is a shell we put on, which is impossible to maintain. It's extremely exhausting. And even if you succeed, I started to succeed in my business, in my physical therapy business, my nutrition business, my speaking business. I felt like a phony. I'll give an example. I spoke, I told you, for the third largest law firm in the world. They flew me out to California, put me up at the Four Seasons, and I spoke at two of their LA headquarters. I did these really great rah-rah motivational presentations. And then I went back to my suite at the Four Seasons and felt like a total phony. And I didn't feel good about myself. And I saw, okay, what's next? What's next? If I'm not judging anyone, but if you're saying, if you succeed, if you like achieve a goal, and it's really important, and all you could say is what's next, that's not enough. I don't feel any different. Like I felt happy for a few minutes or a few days, but now I'm looking for the next thing, the next conquest. That might be something from childhood.
Wow.
Why can't I be happy? Why can't I be present? Whether I'm making a lot of money or not, if I'm doing what I love, why can't I just say, this is enough right now? I love this. I'm doing what I love. These people are awesome. It's resonating with them. I couldn't do that for years because I felt like a phony, because I had self-doubt. The self-doubt came from my childhood. from my parents who had self-doubt because their parents told them they weren't good enough, because their parents told them they weren't good enough. And sometimes parents tell us that directly. My dad told me directly, you're not good enough. He told me you're not a good baseball player, you're not a good football player, et cetera, et cetera. And some parents do it subtly. I've done it to my children with a disapproving nod or a look, or not to say that we have to be overly sensitive, but kids, the only place kids get their self-worth from is from their caregiver or their parent. And if they don't get it, they seek it. And I think, Cal, and I talk to my therapist about this, I've done research. If you see someone out there accumulating, it's never enough. They're conquering. John D. Rockefeller did this. He was the richest man in the world. And he said he was ordained by God to be the richest man in the world because he was smarter than anyone else. And he had to do it. But the way he did it was he destroyed other industries, companies, families, generations of people working hard. And he went and crushed them. And he said, God ordained me to do this. And guess what? His father abandoned him when he was a little boy. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. So I just think it's worth looking at, not to blame, not to point a finger and say, you know what, Dad, you sucked. You really didn't, you didn't do the right thing. It's to understand, oh, I have self-doubt because my dad did and his dad did and his dad did, but I don't have to live like that anymore. And that's the beginning of finding your true self and your power.
So looking back, it's funny because I always promote this. There's a tortoise in my hair. There's a lot of this character going back and looking at his childhood as he's older to try to piece things together, is what you just said.
Yeah.
Some of that, is me, and trying to piece together some of the things in my life that I'm still living. I'm still a byproduct of those days. So
Me too, Cal.
Yeah.
Me too. It's constant vigilance.
Correct.
But I'm optimistic. We can make more progress than not.
Yeah, and you have to, because it's
Right.
survival, and you've got to move on. But somebody once said, those who forget the past are condemned to relive it. So
Right. Yeah.
It was a great quote.
Right.
Couple more things. I love this because we didn't, in all our talking before we went on air and stuff. What are some of the healthiest foods? I love this. What are some of the healthiest foods on the planet?
I know, it's so easy. Well, I'll tell you this. There's places called the Blue Zones. You might have heard of them. A lot of people have. There was a Netflix special. It's like 25, 30 years now. The Blue Zones are where people live the longest, happiest, healthiest lives.
Wow.
There's almost no cancer, no Alzheimer's, no diabetes, no heart disease, no high cholesterol. And some of these people smoke. I'm not telling you to smoke. I'm just saying what's going on. So one of the things the researchers are focusing on is the food. They eat very local food, mostly plants, and they grow a lot of the plants. They've got gardens. They pick, my mother, when she was growing up in Greece, was very poor. They would pick wild dandelion greens on the hill behind their home. Wild dandelion greens are one of the healthiest foods on the planet because any food that's bitter has to survive. It became bitter to survive. And those are all antioxidants and all the phytonutrients in those bitter herbs. Wow. So arugula is another food. And the Greeks, when they make their dandelion greens, they boil them a lot of times and mix them with olive oil, squeeze of lemon juice and salt. They drink the liquid that's left over from boiling the dandelions. And a lot of people think that there's nutrients in that liquid. Mm-hmm. So they're eating seasonal, fresh vegetables. Plant-based is their focus. But they're not vegetarians. They're not vegans. They do eat small amounts of animal protein, but they're raising the goats. The sheep are, the animals, the chickens are running around in their yards. A lot of these people are poor in the Blue Zones. That's the other thing I love, Cal. The happiest, healthiest, longest lived people in the world are not rich. They have very little technology. They live in rural areas. yet they report the highest satisfaction of life of anyone. I love that. So they're eating, they're growing or raising these animals, or they're eating wild animals. They don't eat a lot, like I said, but they definitely do eat animal protein. They ferment their foods. They make sourdough bread. They ferment the fruit from their trees to make alcohol, and they drink alcohol in moderation. Um, those are the primary things. Like, but when I tell people this, I'm like, I don't have anything to knock your socks off with nutrition. It's eat lots of vegetables, fruit, good quality animal protein, eat fermented foods, and you're going to be great. And people are like, that's it? Like, where's the magic bullet? Like, what? I don't understand that. Like, there's got to be something else, but that's it. That's all these people are eating. So I try to eat those foods 80% of the time.
Yeah. I in 75, in 1975, I became a flexitarian, meaning I stopped eating anything with four legs. And there was several reasons for that. One was environmental. Today's Earth Day. Today's Earth Day, and I know that cows eat grass, and cows give off methane, which heats the planet up. So I'm a humanitarian, and I also started dating a vegan, which also helped the process. She was 6'1" and blonde and blue-eyed, and you could have told me she was whatever. I would have joined. Um, I'm glad it was just vegan. So that was, but so I haven't. I do eat chicken and turkey. That's part of being a flexitarian, and fish, but nothing with four legs. And the last time I had my calcium C2 scan a few years ago, I had zero coronary artery plaque.
Good for you.
Yeah. So food, 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 food,
Yeah.
and
Powerful, man. Let
powerful
food
stuff.
be thy medicine, right?
Food, food, food. To be continued. I keep reading. I subscribe to so many different health emails between AARP and WebMD and a whole bunch more. What pops up almost weekly is best exercises, and some of them,
Yeah.
wow. And I started doing them. I started doing them.
Yeah.
Squats. Wow. So just
Excellent.
real
Good for
fast.
you, Cal.
Yep, some of the best exercises, real fast.
Build muscle. I tell my clients, build muscle, build muscle, build muscle. I still work part-time as a physical therapist. If you love cardiovascular exercise, running, swimming, do it because you love it. But if you're limited for time and want to be healthy, I would build exercise. You could do it in a circuit like I do. I do a 20-minute circuit: squats, lunges, push, pulls, push-ups. I do pull-ups. It's advanced stuff. You don't have to do that. In a circuit, you're going to build muscle. You're going to elevate your heart rate. I said I was doing a Spartan race this weekend. I don't do any running on the treadmill. I don't do any running outside. I'm 6'4". It's not good for my joints. I don't need to. Because I'm doing a 20-minute focused workout, building muscle in a circuit, I'm getting my resistance training and I'm getting my heart rate up. And that heart rate elevating and decreasing, increasing, decreasing gets you fit faster. So I would look into doing muscle building exercise. Doesn't have to be anything amazing or fancy. You don't have to join a fancy gym. I work out in my apartment and then when I'm traveling, I work out in my hotel room. I bring resistance band. It doesn't have to be complicated. Again, you just got to find that intrinsic motivator. Why am I going to do the exercise? So that I can get to Japan. It's all related. So I would encourage build muscle, especially as we get older. The good news is into our 90s, we could build muscle, we could build bone strength, we could build tissue strength, which is very, very encouraging. It's never too late to start. Because when you're stronger, you're building muscle, your balance is going to improve. You're going to have less falls. If you do fall, you might have less of a chance of a break because your bones are stronger. And if you're eating healthy, you might not have osteoporosis. There's just incredible benefit with building muscle. So I definitely encourage that.
You just said something that just blew me away. I've been exercising voraciously for the last 25 years that I've been conscious of it, between tennis and the gym and now some knee problems, this, that, whatever. But remember I said earlier, I don't know whether we were on air or off air, that one of my doctors said I'm a walking miracle.
Yeah.
And part of that being a walking miracle is January 17th, 2024. My son and daughter-in-law and the two grandkids came over and they all yelled for me to come. I was upstairs lying down and I jumped out of bed and I started. It's a big staircase on the second floor. I took one step and I fell. So I fell down 7 steps. I have no recollection, but they all saw it. 7 steps with such force that it propelled me into a somersault. And I somersaulted down 4 more steps. So that's 11 steps, somersault, huge. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". And of course I was a little dazed, but I got up and I walked away, nothing. And
Wow.
I called every one of my doctors. I'm on Eliquis, and do I stop?
Yeah.
And every one of my doctors, my orthopedic, everyone said, Calvin, you probably should have died.
Yeah.
But it was what you just said, Peter.
Yeah.
The fact that I've been in such good shape. That
100%, Cal. I have to believe that.
Yeah, and
Save your life.
of course, I believe somebody up there too cradled me.
Sure, that too.
I believe that and I keep saying it. Like I said to my cardiologist today, I said, I should have died. He said, you're right. Nobody gets up. At least
Right.
you break a neck, you break a back, you break something. Nobody
Right.
gets up and walks away from that. So what you've been saying, spot on.
I'm glad.
And it's a good way to kind of wrap up this session, which we're going to do. You got to run, I know. This is just the beginning. We're going to do more of these,
Yeah.
and this was great. I'm such a believer because I live it in small ways, but I live what you're talking about on my own with nobody to guide or help. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of physical therapy too, because I've been doing physical therapy on and off for 25 years.
Yeah.
Thing and another huge. So, Peter, we did good. That was a line I borrowed from The Godfather when Michael Corleone tells Enzo the baker, "You did good." We did good. So I'm forthwith inviting you to come back. We'll put together some more stuff. Come back. Your message is everlasting and powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Cal.
We'll do it. This is a wrap. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording.